We give you the facts, it's not what you think. Popeye Newsling, Young King, 1 yard, bless.
Good morning, Popeye. Grandma watch Popeyes every morning and every night.
What am I drink? What am I think? You're listening to Popeye News Links. This is the Admiral Tibet who I represent, and remember, the time is so serious, cantankerous and dangerous. This is Popeye News Links.
Yeah, watch Popeyes, mama. How you watch?
Popeye.
Greetings viewers and subscribers. In March last year, I carried a 3-part series. It was about a murder that took place at Lowe River in the parish of Trelawny. Since March last year, there has been a lot of new subscribers to this channel and they may have missed that series. What I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be putting the 3-part series in one video. Even if you had watched the series before, I am sure you're going to want to listen again. So here goes. In this story, there's going to be many twists and turns. It is important that you pay close attention. Every word in this story is very important. So hear what? Hit on the love button from now. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, hit on the subscribe button as also. Hit on the notification bell, then click all so that whenever we drop a new video, you will be the first to be notified. So without further ado, look at that house on your screen. That house, it is situated at Lowe River in the parish of Trelawny. That house is owned by a man. He's living in England. His nephew used to be living at that house and he was the caretaker for the house. That nephew, his name is Abejay Powell, but he's popularly known as TERRON. In March 2017, TERRON, he was 22 years old. TERRON used to be living in England, but he chooses to live in Jamaica at that house in Lowe River. The reason was that TERRON living at that house, he was living as a king. His uncle would send money from England all the time for the upkeep of the property. His uncle also had some high-end vehicles on the property to include an X5, etc. TERRON, he was living his best life. He was living in a mansion, not paying any bills. He didn't have to work and he had top-of-the-line vehicles to drive. TERRON got greedy and he started robbing his uncle. TERRON, he went to his uncle's mother and told her that her son, his uncle, said she should give him, TERRON, 800,000 Jamaican dollars to do some work on a pavement in the yard that was breaking away. The mother had no reason to doubt TERRON because he was the caretaker for the property and she had given him more than $800,000 in the past to do work on the property. TERRON, he got the money from his uncle's mother, but what he did was he went and bought a car with the money. Someone had told him about a deal where he could buy a car for a cheap price. TERRON conned his uncle's mother, got the money and purchased the car. Now, when TERRON carried the papers he was given for the vehicle and went to the tax office to transfer the vehicle, the papers were found to be all fake. As it turned out, the car was a stolen motor vehicle. Now, I'm not sure what happened to the car, but TERRON, he ended up the loser because after he pulled off that scam, his uncle cut him off as far as giving him money to do business for him was concerned. The uncle, he still allowed TERRON to be living at the house. I missed out an important detail. It was TERRON and one of his cousins who were first living and staying at the house. But we are told that TERRON, he wanted to control everything. So what he did was he fight against his cousin. Now in Jamaica, we don't say fight against. We say fight against. So it is said that TERRON, he fight against his cousin. As a result, the cousin got fed up and left the house. The cousin, he still lived near to the house, about a minute or two away. Listen to this now. Listen to this. This is very important. In the yard were some pit bulls. No one could enter the yard unless that cousin or TERRON accompanied them into the yard. So TERRON, he was now in his uncle's black book as far as handling his money is concerned, or was concerned. But the pavement in the yard was breaking away and needed fixing. The uncle, he got a number for another relative. Now if you look on your screen, that's the best photo we could get of that relative. His name is Otis Patrick, also known as Rooney. In March 2017, Rooney, he was 31 years old. He was the father of 4. Rooney was a very hard working man. He was a mason. He was a contractor. Now, Rooney, he's originally from Lowe River, but at a tender age, he was relocated to the parish of St. Mary. In early 2017, someone told TERRON's uncle that his cousin Rooney is a very good and honest mason, so he could ask him to do the job on fixing the pavement. The uncle contacted Rooney and Rooney said yes, he would do the job, but he would have to go to the house to do an estimate. The uncle in England, he didn't tell his nephew TERRON, who was at the house, what his plans were. What the uncle did was he arranged with the other cousin, yeah man, that one who was living there before, to go to the house with Rooney. Remember now, no one could enter the yard without TERRON and that cousin because of the pit bulls. So on a day when TERRON was not at home, Rooney and that cousin, they went to the yard. Rooney took his measurement and did his estimate. Now, Rooney, he passed on the estimate to the uncle who is living in England, and they both agreed at a price to get the job done. Now, sometime in February 2017, TERRON was at a party where he met a young lady. He and this young lady, they started dating, and the young lady, she started coming to see TERRON from time to time at the house. Yes man, the mansion. The cousin who used to live at the house before, where he was now living. The young lady would have to pass his house to go and visit TERRON at the mansion. The cousin, he would walk with the young lady to the house and assisted her to go inside of the house because of the pit bulls. Remember what I just told you. It is important. Now, on the afternoon of Saturday, March 25, 2017, Rooney, he left his home where he lived with his baby mother and 2 children. He told them that he would be back in a few weeks' time. That was the last time Rooney's family saw him alive. Now, Rooney, he arrived at Lowe River in Trelawny that Saturday evening, March 25, 2017. He had his pet dog and a suitcase packed with clothes. He stopped at the cousin and the cousin followed him to the house. When they reached the house, Abejay Powell, otherwise called TERRON, and that hoodlum on your screen, his name is O'Neil Demetrius, but he's popularly known as Socket. He was 27 years old in March 2017. Both TERRON and Socket, they were in the house, and they were surprised to see Rooney coming in the house with his pet dog and his suitcase packed with clothes. Right away, they concluded that Rooney, he was here to stay for a long time. So the cousin, he left the house, and that was the last time anyone would have seen Rooney alive. Well, except for Socket and TERRON. Boy, may I tell you. Now, remember I told you that whenever the female was coming to the house to see TERRON, she would stop at the cousin who would accompany her to the house. Well, TERRON, he called her at minutes to 10 o'clock and told her not to stop at the cousin when she was coming on that night. Saturday, March 25, he told her that he would let her into the house. The female, she found this strange, but she didn't question it. And if you noticed, I'm not using the word allegations, and you'll soon know why. At minutes to 11 o'clock that night, the female reached at the house. She was accompanied by a female friend. Now, as they were entering the house, again, something suspicious was observed. There was a glass door at the front of the house. It was observed that there was a big towel covering the glass. When they went into the house, there was a strong smell of disinfectant and bleach on the downstairs of the house. TERRON and Socket, they were in the house, and when the young lady who was dating TERRON and her friend were in the house, it was observed that both TERRON and Socket were whispering to each other a lot. Now, both females, they went to bed. It was observed that early the next morning, Sunday, March 26, TERRON and his friend Socket, they were up very early. The female got up and wanted to do some cleaning in the house. When she asked TERRON for the map, he told her that the pit bulls were fighting and they bite up each other. He told her that he had used the map to wipe up the blood and threw the map away. Days passed. The two females were still at the house, but then they started hearing some whisperings about Rooney. Remember now, these two females, they had no idea that Rooney was at the house before they reached there. The female who TERRON was dating, her family is living in an eastern parish. This female, she left Trelawny and went to visit her family. A day after she reached at her family, TERRON came there. They both went to river, and while they were in the river, she asked TERRON what had happened to Rooney. TERRON confessed. TERRON told her that he stood behind Rooney and used an illegal gun owned by his friend Socket to shoot Rooney in the back of his head. He said he and Socket picked up Rooney and hurriedly put him at the back of the house before she and her friend came there. He told her that there was a lot of blood in the house and he and Socket used disinfectant and bleach to clean it up. He told her that early the next morning, he and Socket, they dug a hole in the backyard and buried Rooney in the hole. TERRON, he threatened the female and told her that if she repeated what he told her to anyone, he was gonna kill her. But guess what? The female told someone, and that someone told someone else, and someone told the police. This is part 1. In part 2, you're gonna hear how the police cracked this case. You're gonna hear how the female witness stayed away and could not be found for 5.5 years. You're gonna hear how and why she magically appeared in court, and even when she appeared, what almost happened in court. And if you look on your screen, there is where TERRON and Socket buried Rooney at the back of the yard. Now, I wanted to drop part 1 this morning and part 2 this evening, but I won't be dropping part 2 later, and this is why. Abejay Powell, also known as TERRON, he was found guilty for murder in the Trelawny Circuit Court 2 weeks ago. The matter was put off for sentencing yesterday, March 16, in the parish of St. James. However, sentencing was again put off until Tuesday, March 21. Now, I'll be dropping the part 2 if and when sentence is passed on Tuesday, March 21. You think you hear nothing yet? You really think you hear anything yet? Stand by for part 2. Now, we had been asking for a photograph of convicted murderer Abejay Powell, also known as TERRON, but we didn't get any. He was supposed to be sentenced in the St. James Circuit Court in Montego Bay yesterday. So we journeyed to the court and we were able to take a photograph of him. If you look on your screen, that is TERRON when he was heading into court yesterday. Did you manage to watch part 1 of this murder mystery? If you didn't, I implore you to go back and watch it. That way, you will better understand where we are now. I'm going to be dropping a link for part 1 in the description below. Click on it, go over there and watch it. Now, I was contacted by a relative of Otis, Patrick, who told me that he was called ROUNEY, not Rooney. If you should do the research and check all the articles about this incident online, they all refer to him as Rooney. So the relative is saying that he was called ROUNEY, not Rooney. I was contacted by persons who are living in the Lowe River community in Trelawny. They are saying that I left out some important details in part 1. They are saying that the 2 females who I spoke about, they were there when TERRON killed ROUNEY. They are also saying that an elderly female was there and that elderly female was forced to clean up ROUNEY's blood. Now, that might be true. But guess what? That was not the evidence presented in court. The evidence presented was what I told you about in part 1. The evidence is that the 2 females did not know what took place until TERRON confessed to the girl he was involved with. So TERRON, he told her that if she told anyone, he's gonna kill her. But she told someone, and that someone told someone else, and someone told the police. But before the police got the information, they were investigating a missing persons report. Otis Patrick, also known as ROUNEY, he was reported missing to the St. Mary police. It was the St. Mary police who contacted the Trelawny police and asked for their assistance. The Trelawny police, they went to the mansion and they spoke to TERRON. TERRON told the police that yes, Otis Patrick, also known as ROUNEY, he came there on Saturday, March 25, 2017. He told them that ROUNEY, he came there in the late afternoon and he left the same evening, stating that he was gonna try and rent a tractor to start up work on the pavement early the next morning. He told the police that ROUNEY, he did not return, but he didn't take it as anything because he thought that ROUNEY had gone back to St. Mary. Almost 2 months passed and there was still no sign of ROUNEY. The whisperings were getting loud in the Lowe River community that TERRON had killed ROUNEY. The police received the information that TERRON's girlfriend knew something. So the police, they wanted to speak to the girlfriend, but they did not want TERRON to know. The girlfriend, she was working at a bar in the neighboring parish of Manchester. The police went there a few times, but TERRON, he was there. The police, they finally decided that time was running out. They are gonna pick up both the girlfriend and TERRON. They were picked up in late May 2017 at the bar where she was working in the parish of Manchester. The police immediately separated them and seized their phones. TERRON, he was questioned by the police. He told the police the same thing he told them before. He told them that ROUNEY came there the Saturday afternoon and he left in the evening, stating that he's gonna look a tractor to rent to start work on the pavement early the next day. He told the police that when his girlfriend and her friend came to the house that night, he was alone in the house. No one else was there. The girlfriend, she was questioned separately and initially she told them the same thing. She told them that when she got to the house, TERRON told her that ROUNEY was there, but that he had left to rent a tractor because he was gonna be starting some work in the yard the next day. The police asked her, when you got to the house that night, was there anyone else at the house apart from TERRON? She told the police, yes, TERRON's friend, Socket, was there. Bingo. Both statements could not be true. Remember now, Sackett's correct name is O'Neal Demetrius. Do you remember what TERRON told the police? He told them that he was alone when she got there. The girlfriend said Sackett was there immediately. That raised a red flag. So the police, they started digging further. The police told her that they had information that Rooney was killed and that TERRON had confessed to her. She was holding out for a while, but the police continued digging. The girlfriend, she finally caved in. She told the police that TERRON told her that he killed Rooney. She told the police that TERRON told her that Rooney came to the house with a box food and he sat and ate the food. She said TERRON told her that Rooney, he had finished eating the food and he was standing at the door, crushing out some weed in his hand middle to build a ganja spliff when he, TERRON, walked up behind him and shot him in his head. She told the police that TERRON said he and Sackett buried him behind the house. She told the police that she had seen TERRON and Sackett in the house with illegal guns before. The young lady, she sat down and she gave the police a statement which she signed to. The police, they got a search warrant and they went to O'Neal Demetrius, also known as Sackett house. Sackett was picked up and his house was searched, but nothing incriminating was found by the police. The police questioned him, but he denied that he was at the house that night. In fact, he told the police that he and TERRON were not friends. He only saw TERRON on the road from time to time. Armed with that statement given by the young lady, on Tuesday, May 30, 2017, the police obtained a search warrant. They took TERRON out of his jail cell and they went to the mansion. Now, listen to this CVM TV report by news presenter Curlin Brown at the time. Listen to this.
After some 2.5 to 3 hours of digging at a spot behind the house in Lowe River, pointed out by one of the suspects, a relative of the victim, Otis Rooney Patrick, a body began to take shape below the stones and dirt pile. A team of undertakers from Patmore Funeral Services, armed with digging devices and chemicals, would take over and exhume the body. All this, CVM News understands, took place in full view of the accused man. Given the process of what had reportedly taken place at the house, it was explained that the suspect had to be present, and so he stood, saying nothing, expressionless, in handcuffs, heavily guarded by the law enforcement team. Female relatives wept uncontrollably, especially as they recalled how the family had buried Otis's mother 8 months ago. At least 2 men had to be restrained by several persons, perhaps agitated by the news that the man who had allegedly shot their loved one, described as a hard worker just trying to earn an honest living for his young children, was within their reach, but they could not touch him and serve justice their way. The senior Patrick appeared calm, but his mind was set on intense penalty for a son murdered, then buried, and the spot disguised by freshly planted corn, displaying 4 weeks of growth. A well-crafted homicide, only blurted out by persons pressured by their conscience.
What me have in my intention, that's it. Them a man not supposed to go a prison because they have taxpayer money. The government supposed to kill them a man. Bring in back hanging and get rid of the crime where I go on.
Finally, the body, in an advanced state of decomposition, was brought out in a box shortly after the men from the funeral home were called to come closer. But plans were suddenly halted as the vehicle attempted to make its exit. On confirmed reports, our Pat Moore was asked to hold the body until the post-mortem was done. However, that suggestion was not in keeping with the relatives' arrangements, as they had already made plans with another funeral home.
So you heard that? Well, after that, the police went back and they questioned Sackett. Sackett was still holding out, but the police, they had a card or some cards up their sleeve. The police told Sackett that he was there when Rooney was killed. In fact, the police told him that after Rooney was killed, he, Sackett, searched Rooney's pants pocket and removed his cell phone. The police told him that he also removed 400 Jamaican dollars from Rooney's pants pocket. The police told him that when he removed the money from Rooney's pants pocket, he cussed a bad word and said, "Add this a little bit of money you have in your pocket, pee-hole." The police also told Sackett that he took off the pair of shoes off Rooney's foot, but it was kind of tight for him. So what he did was he took out and threw away the insole of the shoes, and he was wearing the shoes for a while. The police told him that they seized the shoes at the mansion and they were going to be doing DNA analysis on the shoes, and they are sure that Sackett's DNA would be found on the shoes. We are told that Sackett, on hearing this, him wet up himself. You know what that mean? Yeah man, him pee up himself. He then told the police, "Okay officer, may I go come clean." He told the police that he was in the bathroom of the mansion when he heard a loud explosion. He told them that when he made checks, he saw Rooney lying on the floor, bleeding from his head. He told the police that TERRON had a gun in his hand. He told the police that he helped to bury Rooney. Sackett, he gave the police a statement and signed to it. The police, they went back to TERRON and told him about some of the evidence collected against him so far. TERRON, he realized that Tory a come to bump. You know what Tory a come to bump means? You don't? Do the research. Do the research. So TERRON, he realized that Tory a come to bump. He was again questioned by the police, and this time he told them he was gonna come clean. But guess what? TERRON told the police that he was not the killer. It was actually Sackett who killed Rooney. He told the police that Rooney and Sackett, they had an argument and that's why Sackett killed him. TERRON also gave the police what is called a caution statement. Now, the police, they continued investigating and they collected statements from several persons who TERRON gave conflicting stories about the whereabouts of Rooney. He told some persons that he left the house that night with Rooney sleeping, and when he came back, Rooney was not there. He told some persons that he had heard that they found Rooney dead in the parish of St. Mary. All kind of lies, TERRON told. Even after giving the police his first statement, TERRON told another police officer that he was actually at home when 3 men invaded the yard that evening. He told the police that one of the men shot Rooney and buried his body. TERRON and Sackett, they were charged for the murder of Otis Patrick, also known as Rooney, and they were placed before the courts. But on Wednesday, April 4, 2018, there was a jailbreak at the Falmouth Police lockup. O'Neil Demetrius, who is now on your screen, he was one of the 4 prisoners who were housed in one cell at the lockup. Note that, I said these 4 prisoners, they were housed in one cell. All 4 prisoners from that cell, to include Sackett, they escaped. Sackett is still on the run. Now, the female. Yes, man, the same one who was in a relationship with TERRON. The same one who was now the main witness. She reported to the police that she was receiving threats from relatives of TERRON. As a result, the police told her about the witness protection program. she told the police that yes, she would go on the program. Things were put in place for her to go on the program, but she went underground since late 2017. Despite the police's best efforts, they couldn't get in contact with her. TERRON, he was still in police custody and going to court, and a bail application was made for him. TERRON was granted bail by the courts. One of the conditions for his bail was that he should surrender his travel documents. TERRON, he had a Jamaican passport that was expired, and that was what he surrendered. Checks were made and he was never issued another Jamaican passport. But then the police received intelligence. Now, remember I told you that TERRON, he was living in England? Well, TERRON, he was the holder of a British passport. Also, TERRON's father, who was supposed to bail him, he decided that he was not going to use his vehicle, which is a high-end vehicle, to bail TERRON because he knew that TERRON would not return to court. The father, he instead decided to post a cash bond. The police, armed with this intelligence, they went to the judge and told the judge about it, and TERRON's bail was revoked. You know what? I'm going to be concluding this on Sunday because guess what? There is a whole heap more to come. Whole heap more. Now, TERRON, he was sentenced to life in prison yesterday. You're going to want to hear about the twists and turns in this trial. You're going to want to hear what the defense tried to do and how it backfired on them. You're going to want to hear about why the main witness, who was missing for 5.5 years, suddenly appeared. Don't miss the conclusion on Sunday. Question: have you watched part 1? Another question: have you watched part 2? If you have not, try and watch them because that is the only way you're going to be getting a better understanding as to where we are now. I have seen many persons commenting and they are saying that up until now, they can't see a valid reason why Abejay Powell, also known as TERRON, they cannot see a valid reason why he killed Otis Patrick, also known as ROUNEY. It is for that very reason why this series is called a murder mystery. Truth be told, there is no valid reason for TERRON killing ROUNEY. The closest thing we can point to as a motive was what TERRON told his girlfriend. The same girlfriend who TERRON confessed to. The same girlfriend who turned out to be the star witness in this case. He told her, and I quote, "The boy ROUNEY come there going like him want take over and run me out of my house." Those 19 words in TERRON's mind were reasons enough to kill ROUNEY. But I am putting it to you that it was much more than that. What TERRON didn't tell his girlfriend was that it was jealousy and the fact that some of his powers were now cut. TERRON didn't tell her that he got used to handling the money that his uncle was spending. He messed up and scammed his uncle's mother of $800,000. So his uncle did not trust him again to send any more money to him. TERRON, he didn't tell his girlfriend that he felt like persons in the area would be laughing at him because the hype that he was on was cut down. Based on what I'm learning, this was not the first time TERRON was shooting someone. He shot a man before and we are learning that money run. TERRON, he did not face his judgment on that one, and as a result, he must be thinking that he could kill ROUNEY and after a while, everything would blow away, but it didn't. This case was cracked by some hard-working Trelawny police officers. Some police officers who didn't even know who ROUNEY was. Some police officers who didn't care about ROUNEY's social standing. Some police officers who didn't care that Rooney's family was poor. They worked overtime and used all kind of tactics to ensure that justice was served. I would like to use this forum to big up the Trelawny police officers who investigated this case. Job well done. Now, I'm gonna give you a hint as to one of the tactics the police officers used. You remember in part 2 when I told you that the police told Sackett that they now have in their possession Rooney's pair of shoes that he, Sackett, was wearing, and they were sure that after doing DNA analysis on that pair of shoes, Sackett's DNA would be found on the shoes. You remember that when Sackett heard that, he pee up himself and told the police officers that he might come clean. You remember that Sackett, he went on to tell the police that it was TERRON who killed ROUNEY. Well, well, the question is, do you believe that the police officers had that pair of shoes? Do you believe? Alright, make that one rest. But that was one of the tactics that the police used to crack this case. Let's continue. So the case was now making itself through the courts. Sackett and 3 other male prisoners, they escaped from the Falmouth police lockup on Wednesday night, April 4, 2018. The case was still in the courts and TERRON, he was in custody, but the main witness who the police had offered to place on the witness protection program and who initially agreed to go on the program, she could not be found. It was believed by investigators that she was deliberately staying away because there was information to suggest that this lady was alive. Despite the many messages that were left for her to contact the police, she did not. You remember the other day when I told you about the death of the twins? Lawyer Johnson and I also spoke about it last week. Section 31D of the Evidence Act allows for statements to be tendered as evidence as long as certain things are done. Listen to what Lawyer Johnson had to say about this.
Yes.
So I'm going to touch something that a lot of persons don't know.
Yes.
Occasionally, sometimes persons, when they're out, will actually seek to kill the witness because they're of the view that once they kill the witness, the case dies. No, the case does not die. There are provisions where the statement that they have given can be used as the evidence.
I spoke about that since week, Section 31D of the Evidence Act.
Yes, I see you are very well informed.
Yeah, man, I spoke about it. Yes.
So a lot of persons think that if they kill the witness or some person kill the witness,
yes,
they are home dry.
Yes.
No. And I will tell you this, my experience is that if that statement is properly taken,
yes,
it can think you.
Yes. Yes.
So actually, don't get a chance to cross-examine the witness.
Mr. Johnson, you approve me, because I have a part 2 for a story coming up, and trust me, that gonna be a part of it. Yes.
So leave the witness alone.
Yes, ma'am.
Avoid them.
Yes.
And get good counsel who can represent you forcefully in court and put your defense forward in a very clear, logical, and lucid fashion.
Yes.
So you heard that. Well, as far as this case was concerned, notices were placed in major newspapers plus other things. The matter was called up in the Trelawny Circuit Court on Monday, February 6. On that occasion, the prosecution told the court that they were ready for trial and they intended on using Section 31D of the Evidence Act to tender the statement as evidence in the trial. The S prosecutor, she informed the court about all that was done. The court agreed that yes, the statement could be submitted. That was a big setback for the defense because if the witness did not come to court and the statement was not admitted as evidence, a not guilty verdict would almost be certain. The matter was set to be tried Wednesday morning, February 8 at 10 o'clock. Abejay Powell, he was pleaded and he pleaded not guilty. A jury was now being empaneled. Lo and behold, who was it that stepped in the courthouse? The witness that could not be found for 5.5 years. So, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. By the way, have you hit on the love button as yet? I never that me I go ask, but I just remember. If you have not yet done so, remember to hit on it. So, let me ask you something. Who do you think reached out to the witness and tell her to come to court? Who do you think would rather to have her give evidence than her statement being admitted as evidence? Remember now, if her statement was admitted, no questions could be asked. Now, everyone except TERRON and at least one other person who were in the court were shocked to see the witness. You wanna guess who the other person is? There was hardly enough time for the Crown Counsel to go over the statement with the witness so that she could refresh her memory. So a policeman was instructed to do so because the plan was for her to give her evidence first. The policeman went over the statement with her. When the court was ready for her to give her evidence, she could not be found. She was apparently reminded of the statement she gave, so she took away herself. The trial judge, she gave an order to the police. The order was simple. 2 words: find her. Within 45 minutes, the witness was found by the police. She was found in a taxi on her way out of Falmouth. She was brought back to court. She was sworn and she started to give her evidence. But guess what? Guess what? The witness, she told the court that TERRON did not tell her that he killed ROUNEY. She said TERRON told her that it was Socket who killed ROUNEY. She told the court that she didn't tell the police anything like what they wrote in her statement. She said the police were lying. Now, the Crown, they decided to treat her as a hostile witness. Question: do you know who is referred to as a hostile witness? You don't? Well, a hostile witness is a witness who appears to be refusing to fully testify in support of the Crown. In this case, who called her or testify in a way that significantly differs from her pre-trial statement. So the Crown was thinking of treating her as a hostile witness. The case was adjourned until the next day, Thursday, February 9. Now, when the matter was called up to be continued, one of the jurors out of the 12 was missing. Information was received that juror was in police custody. The police, they had carried out a raid at his home early in the morning and he was taken into custody. Right away, the defense, they were of the view and they expressed it that this was a stalling tactics on the part of the police. They were of the view that because things were not going in the Crown's favor, that's why the police did this. The police officer who was in charge of the operation early that morning, he was summoned before the court. In court, he showed the judge proof that the early morning operation was being planned days in advance. He also told the court about the intelligence he had received in respect of the juror and what he was involved in. The court accepted the policeman's explanation and that juror was taken off the jury. The case then restarted and TERRON's girlfriend, once again, she took the stand. But guess what? Boy, may I tell you, guess what? She had a change of heart. Something or someone touched her. She fully cooperated with the prosecution. She told the court what TERRON told her, plus a whole heap more. Other witnesses came to court and they gave evidence. Witnesses who TERRON would have told all kinds of stories, and I mean conflicting stories about where ROUNEY was. The Crown closed this case and TERRON, he had 3 choices. In his defense, he could stay in the prisoner's dock and kept silent. He could stay in the prisoner's dock and make a statement and the prosecution could not ask him any question. Or he could go in the witness box, be sworn or affirmed, give his evidence and be subjected to cross-examination. TERRON went into the witness box. TERRON, he told the court a lot of things. He denied killing Rooney. You remember I told you about 4 prisoners to include Socket that had escaped from the Falmouth police lockup? TERRON, he tried to capitalize on that. He told the court that he too could have escaped that night because he was one of the prisoners in the cell that the other prisoners escaped from. He told the court that he chose not to escape because he knew that he's innocent. You remember in part 2, I told you to note the fact that 4 prisoners from the same cell escaped and only 4 prisoners were in that cell. It is for this reason, because it was proven in court that TERRON, he was in another cell. He was not in that cell where the 4 prisoners escaped from. So even if he wanted to escape that night, he couldn't because the cell that he was in, it was securely locked up. Right there, TERRON got a radam. TERRON, he told a lot of other lies, which were found out. In the end, the defense closed its case. The defense made their submission to the jury. The Crown also made their submission to the jury, and trial judge, Miss Andrea Thomas, she summarized the case. The case was now handed over to the jury, and it took them less than 2 hours to come up with a unanimous verdict for the offense of murder. A social inquiry report and antecedent were ordered, and sentencing was set for Thursday, March 23 in Montego Bay. In her plea for mercy, TERRON's lawyer, Shelley-Ann Hyman, she told the court that the antecedent and social inquiry report indicate that TERRON does not appear remorseful, and it is unfortunate. I submit that the reason for that is because he did not admit, but it is his right to maintain his position. The social inquiry report is one, I believe, persons generally call a mixed one. There are persons in the community who speak highly of TERRON as well as the members of his family. They described him as someone who generally gets along with persons in his community, even though he is known to be a little bit reserved. We are, of course, in your hands as it relates to sentencing. We are asking that the court accept our submission that TERRON is not beyond redemption and can be rehabilitated. We will accept whatever sentence the court is going to impose, tempered with mercy. We are hoping that today will bring some kind of closure to what must be a traumatic period for this family. This argument, that argument did not sway Justice Andrea Thomas. She sentenced TERRON to life imprisonment and ordered that he would have to serve 29 years before being eligible for parole. In handing down sentence, Justice Thomas highlighted several aggravating elements, including the fact that TERRON was not honest and subjected them to a trial. That Rooney was not a stranger, remember now. Rooney was TERRON's cousin. Plus, the extent TERRON went to so as to cover up the murder. Now, one of Rooney's brother had this to say to the court. TERRON took the life of my brother, my best friend, my mentor, my counselor. He did not have to kill him. He never once owned up to the wrong he did, and that even made it hurt more. He killed my brother and lied to my family and the community at large, even though he killed him and buried him at the back of the house like he was a dog that you killed and burned. He led us to believe that my brother had left the house and would never return. I am unable to forgive TERRON for taking my brother's life because he killed my brother and has never ever shown any sign of remorse in his actions. Judge, I ask that TERRON gets the maximum sentence that the law allows because what he did is so reprehensible and has affected many persons in many ways. Please make him serve the time that matches the damage that he did to me and my family. Yesterday, Saturday, March 25, is 6 years to the day TERRON carried out that dastardly and senseless act. Condolences to ROUNEY's family and friends. May his soul continue finding rest. The mayhem continues. Blessed love, everybody.
Tell a friend for tell a friend for tell a friend about Popeye Newslink and PNL Blog TV. Like, subscribe and share. Quicksilver sing, if we just unite, what a country this will be. If we just unite, Jamaica live in unity. If we just unite, what a country this will be. If we just unite, Jamaica live in unity. Hey, crime it a mash up Jamaica. Criminals them a mash up Jamaica. Jamaicans mash up Jamaica. Oh Jamaica, me sweet Jamaica. Crime it a mash up Jamaica. Criminals them a mash up Jamaica. Jamaicans mash up Jamaica. Oh Jamaica, me sweet Jamaica. I coulda sunshine or rain. Jamaica, no problem, no pain. Good boy them no out can't tame, but me want me country back. Give me country back. To the street and the lane, everybody them start complain. Bloodshed, what a shame, but me want me country back. Give me country back. Crime it a mash up Jamaica. Criminals them a mash up Jamaica. Jamaicans mash up Jamaica. Oh Jamaica, me sweet Jamaica. Crime it a mash up Jamaica. Criminals them a mash up Jamaica. Jamaicans mash up Jamaica. Oh Jamaica, me sweet Jamaica. Jamaica, the land of the sun. Jamaica become now the land of the gun. East and north.